Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to make this puff stitch crochet hat. Let's get started. Round 1. Make a ring and 6 puff stitch. Make a slip knot and chain 4. After chain 4, you have to connect both ends with slip stitch. Okay? Put the hook into the first stitch and grab the yarn, pull through 2, and there is a opening in the middle, and I will create the puff stitch. Pull the yarn like that, grab it, then put the hook inside of the center, then grab the yarn. There's the 3 loop on the hook, and do one more time. Grab the yarn, now 5 loops on the hook. Then third time. Okay, then I have a 7 loop on the hook, then pull the working yarn through it, through 7, then chain 1. Okay, that's 1 puff stitch. And make 5 more. Grab the yarn, put the hook inside of the hole, and grab the yarn, pull through it, 3 loop on the hook, and second time, then third time, until 7 loop on the hook. Okay, there you go. And pull through 7. There we go. Then chain 1. There we go. To complete. Okay, so you have to do same thing until 6 puff stitch total. Okay, pull. Okay, and there is 7 on the hook, and pull the working yarn through those 7, then chain 1 to finish. Okay, and I meet you at the end. Okay, this is end of the row number 1. Chain 1 to finish, then all you have to do is slip stitch on the first puff stitch to connect. There we go. This is complete. Okay, and then row number 2. Now the space in between puff stitch, you use that space. Okay, pull a little bit, and then same thing. Okay, making the puff stitch, and one more, right? 7 loop on the hook and pull through. Then don't forget to chain 1. Then make 1 more puff stitch in the same space. In this row, you have to make 2 puff stitch in each space. Okay? So total of 12 puff in this row. There you go. Now I'm making third puff stitch. into the next space. Again, 2 puff stitch in each space, and you have to make one more in second space. Obviously, in this round, there's 12 puff stitch total. I'm making last puff stitch right now. Then after you make this puff stitch, you have to connect. Same technique. Okay, pull through 7 loop and chain 1. Then top of the first puff stitch, you have to do slip stitch to connect. Again, I'm gonna use the spacing between puff stitch. Same thing. The difference is how many puff stitch in the space. Round 3. First space, you have to make 1 puff stitch. Then next space, you have to make 2 puff stitch. You have to repeat 1 puff stitch in one space, then next space you have to make 2. So total of puff stitch should be 18 puff stitch in this round. Okay, 1 puff stitch and next space 2 puff stitch. That's it. So we're increasing stitches little by little to make big circle, and this is the top of your head. I'm making top down. Again, in this round, you have to repeat 1 puff stitch and 2 puff stitch around. Then slip stitch to connect. Okay? And one last, space should be 2 puff stitch. And this is the last puff stitch. Chain 1, then connect with slip stitch right on top of the first puff stitch. There you go. This is done. And before I go round 4, I want to talk about rule. Whenever you confuse when to, increase, just look at the space. First, second, and third. Okay? The first one and second one, there's only 1 puff stitch. There you go. Can you see? And third one, there's 2 puff in it. So whenever you increase when double puff stitch in. Okay, there it comes. 2 puff stitch there, right? So this is where you have to make 2 puff stitch. Okay, so let's talk about the round 4. Okay, round 4, the first space, you have to make 1 puff stitch. That's what I'm doing. Pull through 7, then chain 1. Then you go next space. Again, 1 puff stitch in second space. Pull through 7, then chain 1, don't forget that. And next, third space, there's 2 puff in previous round. So I will make 2 puff stitch in there. That's how you figured it out. Anyway, in this row 4, you have to repeat one puff stitch 2 times. Then in the third space, you have to create 2 puff stitch. And you just have to repeat. Then total puff stitch should be 24. Also, always make sure every round how many puff stitch you have. There's no mistake going on. Then you connect both ends, which is top of the first puff stitch. There you go. And round 5. I am going to make one more round with increasing, which is, as you can see my written pattern, 1 puff stitch in next 3 space. Then 4th space, you have to make 2 puff stitch. Can't you see there's the 2 puff stitch in previous row? That's how you figured it out. And I am going to finish increasing row after round 5. If you want to make a little bit more bigger size, you know how to increase, right? Row number 6 should be 1 puff stitch in 4 space total, then next space double puff stitch, right? But again, I am going to stop increasing after round 5. And after row 5, the puff stitch total should be 30. And I want to tell you one more thing. Sizing. Depend on the hook you're using and the yarn you're using. It really depends. But you have to stop increasing just before you cover top of your head. Smaller than your actual top of your head. If this covers my head completely, it's gonna be too big for me. So you wanna stop increasing before this covers your head completely. And if you make it too big or too small, this is crochet. The beauty of crochet, you just rewind easily. Knit, it's tough, but crochet, easy. All right, so this is round 5 and looks very small, but this is good enough. And now I am going to make 1 puff stitch in each space. But again, if you want to make one bigger size, you can do the increasing row again, and you know what to do, right? I explain about the rules. Okay, so again, for me, from the round 6, I have to create 1 puff stitch in each space until your desired length. But same thing, you really have to connect every row. and I did until round 16. I'm just showing you, you have to connect every end of the row like that and start all over. And I did until row 16. There you go. I knitted it about maybe row 8 or 10, and now creating the hat shape, right? Because I stopped increasing. Here comes end of the row. And when to stop, it's really up to you. But I was thinking inch to inch and a half for the rib. So I stop around the row 16. And this is enough for me. So lastly, I made the rib, which is just single crochet this time. You can do pretty much anything, but single crochet is easier for me. And this is not only for, space. You have to make the single crochet in top of the puff stitch and space, both of them, one round. And you don't have to connect every end of the row. You just have to make single crochet around and around, but I don't want to forget when to finish, so I use the marker to make sure when is the first stitch. There we go. And just make single crochet around and around until your desired length. That's about it. I love this puff stitch. The beautiful texture, thick, warm, and easy to make. Bye for now.